Hey, what's up, guys? Mark Conley here, founder of Daily Soccer Skills, and today I wanted to have a chat with you guys about a common problem that I've been getting from a lot of players, particularly in that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 age range where your kids are growing quite a bit. And the question and concern that's been coming in from parents a lot is with regards to Osgood slaughters and severs. And so, what's happening, and if you guys aren't familiar, is when young players, athletes are playing like a lot of sports, especially like soccer, and they're doing it quite frequently, and they start to grow, they start to develop pain in their heels, and this is like really, it's there's nothing like wrong with like your ligaments or your bones. It's literally growing pains, but then it's such the exertion that's going into it that causes the issue. And so I've got a solution that helped me when I was a younger person, but then also a couple of theories on why this is happening, and then some solutions that'll help you, like just make sure your kids are playing longer, healthier, all that good stuff. So just to give us a quick overview, a lot of times with the Osgood slaughters disease and with the severs, you don't see a lot where like a kid is hits a little growth spurt, he runs out, does a cut, and like he like blows out his heel. It doesn't quite work that way. And what happens is you've got all those like little like tendons and muscles and ligaments back there, and so it's they're getting all this tension and all this stress, and then the kids go away from training and they come back like a couple days later and start, and like they get the warm up in, but maybe they're not getting as much of a warm up in as they need to in order to stretch, like some good calf stretching and heel stretching where like you're taking your foot flat on the ground and kind of like, if you will, like it's probably a better way, like kind of like angling it so that, let's say you've got if here's your foot on the ground and here's your leg, if you just kind of angle it that way so that you put in a little bit more of tension on that heel area to stretch it out. The reason I say that is that a lot of my players who reported having these kind of issues, they report it early on, like meaning like after they just start training, start warming up, but then once they get into the game and have been playing for 15-20 minutes, they say it goes away. And then if they come out for like say a sub or a halftime, they start back up, and then it starts to like bother them again. So that could be like an adrenaline thing. They get into the game and they kind of forget about it. But I think it's more maybe a combination of those muscles tightening back up. So warm up properly, stretch. And so one of the things, like it's a lot more prevalent now, and like I know like people always want to say like, oh, the millennials aren't as tough, and like every generation's like not as tough. Like my grandma walked uphill both ways to school in the snow, even in July, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't think that that's the issue. What I think the issue is, if it is an issue, when I was growing up, soccer was like an 8-month-a-year season. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, so we would play, you played spring, summer tournaments, fall soccer, and then winter, it's like, I mean, nobody wants to be outside on the East Coast on the winter, so we go indoors or into gymnasiums and play there, but we were training maybe 2 or 3 times a week. In the winters, it might go to like once or twice a week because, again, we're having to share with basketball. So, whereas I've noticed on the West Coast, I mean, where I live, I mean, it gets hot sometimes, but for the most part, it's like 75 degrees 350 days a year. And so you can play outside all the time. And, the big thing out here is like, everything's kind of like built on granite, so it's like the ground's hard. It doesn't drain like the way things do, say, in Florida, where I've been, I've seen full monsoons happening, and 20 minutes later the field's dry because the fields are built to drain. And the other thing is that kids these days are actually playing, we didn't have turf as much growing up. I mean, there was AstroTurf and it was really bad, but you actually wore turf shoes then. Now kids, they're playing on turf. So, I mean, literally, whether it's rain, whether it's weather, I mean, even in the Midwest and the East Coast now, they've got those domes where kids can go and teams can train in. So it's literally becoming like an 11 to 12 month a year training cycle. And I can speak from that for my teams, whether it's right or wrong, that's what it's become. And what happens is, as these young players are growing, and some of them grow like slow, and some of them like you won't see them for a month. They go away on vacation or something. They come back, and there's a couple inches difference, and in that time frame, it puts a lot of stress. And so, one of the solutions that I've used to help players deal with that is that if you look at the way that the modern shoes are built, those aren't the way the modern shoes were built 20 years ago. And I know that, like, obviously, right? like, I grew up playing in Copa Mundials, Puma Kings, you know, shoes that were built like this with heels like this. And you look at this heel, it's very sturdy, it's very stable, it's got a big support through here. You look at like the new Adidas Nemesis, you look at like the Neymar shoes with the socks coming up, and you pick those shoes up and they are so light. And the heel, there's nothing to it. And so you've got kids that are playing on hard fields 11, 12 months a year, cutting, putting pressure, putting strain on those. And again, I'm not knocking the manufacturers. Their goal is to make lighter, more productive shoes, but I'm not sure how functional they are for like a youth soccer player. But of course, every youth soccer player wants the hot new boots, so I get that too. I would, if I was 10 years old, I'd be wearing the Neymars, I guarantee it. But I'm not. And I went through this when I was like, say, 20 years old, and when I was playing college soccer. And Division I college soccer, you're playing sometimes weightlifting in the morning, afternoon session, evening session, or running in the morning, something 3 times a day. They're seeing you, especially in preseason. And I started to have a really, really bad problems in my heels. So what I did was I went and bought these turf shoes. And so you can see, these, and you can wear turf on grass, you can wear turf on turf. You probably just can't wear turf like on an indoor field, like a gymnasium type floor. But what you can see, the big difference here is all these are called hard ground shoes. You can see they've got like all these like little like rubber dimples, and what that does is that displaces the pressure points across all of your foot. And on top of that, you have this big reinforced heel here. So as kids are cutting, like, yeah, they can't, maybe like it feels a little bit clunky at first. They can't quite move through the grass like they can with the lighter shoes, but they can play, and they can play without pain. And so it doesn't have to be, let's go throw out our Neymar shoes and go buy these wonky things. It doesn't have to be that way. Just try, if your kid's having a little bit of pain, try wearing a pair of these once a week, twice a week. And then if you want to play in your games and stuff with your favorite shoes, you can actually take some wear and tear off of them. I know that's kind of, doesn't really make sense because the kids' feet are growing so fast, they're growing out of it within like 3 or 4 months. But if it'll still take some wear and tear off of it, but it'll take wear and tear off your kids' heels. And if you can play the game versus in pain versus not in pain, I'm always going to think that you're going to be a better player, more confident player, not in pain, than if you're kind of like limping around out there. So again, not a knock on the manufacturers, not a knock on training too much. It's just I think that the shoes have changed, the demands on the youth sport have changed. I mean that kids are playing more often, more regularly, at higher levels, and then the cleats have become more minimalistic, so less support around the arches and around the heels. And I'm not saying, I'm not a doctor. I probably should have said that in the beginning, but I think there's a direct correlation between the number of like heel complaints I'm getting now versus 10 or 15 years ago. And my final point, and I'll give you an example. And most of you guys probably won't even know what I'm talking about, but if you do, growing up, the big movement was that you had your regular cleats that you played when it was regular. You had your turf for turf shoes, but then there was also what they called wet ground shoes. And so the way the wet grounds worked is that there was 2 studs in the back, and then 1, 2, so only 6, but they were long. They were like that long. And there was boom, 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 and like you talk about a lot of pain. Like I tried playing in them once, it was a nightmare. But my buddy, I mean, again, we're like 13, 14 years old. Of course, like had to get, because you could get the metal ones, the metal screw-ins. Had to have them, all right? I mean, so he wore them, he played in them all the time, no matter what. Wore the metal spikes, he felt like it intimidated players. I mean, this is, again, the mind of a 13-year-old. And always had heel problems, always. And again, he grew a lot, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, versus like, I don't know, let's just call it like 35, 40 little pressure points here. So again, I'm not a doctor, but I think that if you have a young player who's going through some severs, Otschard-Slaughters, they want to be on the field, and you don't want to see them like wincing around in pain or kind of like running gingerly the way you see kids do in that situation. You can, I'll include a couple of pics and a couple of links. That way, if you want to pick them up, I don't have any skin in the game on that one. I don't get any commissions or anything like that. But I'll send you out a couple of links of like shoes that I've worn and had good experiences with. And if If it helps you, it helps you. If it doesn't, at least you've got some background on it. All right, guys. Hope your guys are getting out there and training. And here's to no more Osgood slaughters. Take care.